Realtors abide by a code of ethics. This is Article 9 in action. Beth, a first-time homebuyer, knew nothing about the home buying process, except that she wanted to buy a home. But her realtor had the expertise to make sure Beth understood every document, even giving her copies to review with her lawyer so Beth could close on her first home with confidence. Complicated things explained in simple terms. The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
Last night, I was reading in bed when my husband started massaging my shoulders. You know what that means. So I quickly said, I'm way too tired for sex, babe. And he said, we only have sex like once a week. You're always so tired. And it really got me thinking, how often are married couples supposed to have sex? So I Googled it, naturally. And that's when I found the Relatable Report. It's a free resource for married couples, and it delivers research-backed relationship advice to your inbox every Friday. Check it out and sign up at relatablereport.com.
What's up? It's your boy, the Ted Smith. Thanks for listening to the Men's Room Daily Podcast. Want more? Check out the greatest podcast in all the land, The Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and listen to a brand new episode every Tuesday night.
Unfortunately, what you're about to hear is real. The members of this radio program are simply not that bright, or what some people would call educated. They are merely stupid. They're not trying to offend anyone on purpose. And all have played doctors on TV. You have been warned and are cordially invited to join the party. This is the Men's Room.
Forget it, man, and get with the countdown. Get with the countdown. Shake this square world and blast off for Kicksville. The trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
This is the Men's Room with Miles and Thrill. You know what they say, shake your radio more than 3 times, and you're playing with it. You're listening to the Men's Room.
And away we go. Welcome to Season 17, Episode number 3605. Along with Steve the Thrill Hill, the Ted Smith, and my cock, and you are the Men's Room. On tap today, the return of Who Sucks Less. We will play Profile This, plus headlines, the Men's Room shot of the day, fun with listener emails, and everyone's favorite, TV Time with Ted. Clack, clack. Drink to draw. All right, here we go. Man goes on a champagne and Viagra-fueled sex marathon and breaks his pee-pee in two. Meanwhile, a Florida man gets probation for going to Target and violating a Frozen doll with his skin kazoo. Michigan judge gives man on chemo the business for not pulling his weeds. Irish pub decides that even talking about COVID is not what that bar needs. And a wife catches her husband doing a whiskey shot. Unbeknownst to him, he was using her menstrual cup. That is all coming on today's very special episode of The Men's Room.
And now, here's the question.
All the bitches, good day to you and yours. All right, it doesn't always sound like it. But believe it or not, parents spend a lot of time and have many debates about what to name their children. And then, oddly enough, after settling on a name, those parents can pretty much count on absolutely no one, other than teachers, actually calling their kid by their name. And that includes the parents themselves. They start calling their kids things like Snugglebutt, Buggy Boo, and Jelly Cheeks. For example, my mother has spent 53 years calling me Shang-a-Lang, in spite of the fact she came up with the name Steven. She named me Steven and basically has not called me that since. Now, to be fair, I rarely use my kids' actual names unless they're in trouble. It was not my intent. It's just that's how it worked out. And that never really ends, right? You get out of childhood, then you become a teen. And in those years, you'll probably endure a few less than flattering nicknames, or your last name suddenly becomes your name. Then at some point, you start dating, or maybe you get married. And once again, the name your parents so painstakingly contemplated is replaced with things like babe, honey, sweetheart, boo, and darling. Seems to be how life works for most of us. You're given a name, and then no one calls you that for the rest of your life. Hell, in this studio alone, a man named Steven is known as Thrill. James, you know him as Miles. Edward, we know him as Ted, or in some cases, The. And then Michael is Mr. Hawk. None of our parents named us the names that anybody calls us, including our parents. And now I'm known as Dad. So today, we want you to think about all the different names you're actually known by, right? Your coworkers might call you something, your parents might call you something, your friend calls you something, your spouse calls you something, your kids call you something. So it could be dad, it could be mom, it could be junior, whatever. We want an answer to today's question, which is, besides your birth name, how many other names do you answer to?
Be part of the big show. Call 206-421-ROCK. Like the Men's Room on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Men's Room Live. And send those emails to the Men's Room at KISW.com.
Realtors abide by a code of ethics. This is Article 9 in action. Beth, a first-time homebuyer, knew nothing about the home buying process, except that she wanted to buy a home. But her realtor had the expertise to make sure Beth understood every document, even giving her copies to review with her lawyer so Beth could close on her first home with confidence. Complicated things explained in simple terms. The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
$20 million, $19 million, $6 million. These are all awards recovered for clients of Phillips Law Firm. To win big, you have to fight big. And Phillips Law has been fighting the too big to fail insurance industry for decades. Not every case will have a multi-million-dollar outcome, but Phillips Law will fight just as hard to recover the outcome you deserve. If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or on the job, call or click today at 1-800-JUSTICE or visit justiceforyou.com.
This podcast is brought to you by the Washington State Department of Health. As we continue to listen, learn, and grow, we are amplifying Black voices and perspectives in an effort to start a new COVID-19 vaccine conversation. We're sharing stories intended to help us navigate this unprecedented time together and to co-create solutions in support of the Black community. Hear these stories at weconsiderwa.org.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
The debauchery rolls on. You're listening to The Men's Room with Miles and Thrill. 99.9 KISW.
Oh, but y'all, away we go. Welcome to Season 17, Episode number 3605. A large and in charge program we have for you today.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed future repeat. That is a fact. The exciting return of Who Sucks Less. Steve, how bad are these stories looking today? I know it's tough for you to find stories of people who suck in the news. Somehow you managed to do it.
I do. You know, most people are overwhelmingly positive and always have the right reaction to any situation. These people, however, different, very unique. Okay. You're not going to believe this. In 2 of the 3 stories, people were disappointed and used violence as a reaction. Now, I know no one does that, but these people did. And then the 3rd story, the person wasn't particularly violent, and they unintentionally, there's a silver lining. They reinforced a little girl's belief in Santa Claus.
Oh.
That was not their goal. That was not their stated goal. Right. But when we get to the story, you'll understand, look, the best thing this person did is this little girl believes in the magic of Santa.
Nice. What else we got for you today? Oh, we do have a chance for you to win Ghost and Volbeat tickets. What they've asked us to do is pick a time every day. All right. And at that time, we will give you a code word, a secret word, that you'll go to KISW.com. I'll put that on the contest page. Enter yourself for a chance to win tickets to Ghost and Volbeat. We picked the time today. The time today is going to be 4:20 in the afternoon.
Oh, that's a good pick.
4:20.
I didn't see that one coming.
You'll be able to remember that time. That's when we'll give you the secret word and your chance to win tickets to see Ghost and Volbeat.
I like that you mix it up, just like the brass ass. You know, if you can rely on anyone to be team players, it is us.
Well, you need to.
And I think this is proof.
Hey, consistency is key.
Yeah. Here's the idea in my mind, anyway, right?
Okay. All right.
If I give a different time every day at the beginning of the show, then you'll listen at the beginning of the show to get that time.
Right.
So you know. So as long as we give that time at the beginning of the show, keep doing what we're doing. Hopefully make it easier for you to win the tickets.
Yeah.
We're trying to give you the tickets. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing about us. We don't care. We just want you to go to the show. You know what I mean? So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. Ghost and Volbeat, again, the secret word, will be coming up at 4:20. And as you know, hopefully you've been able to check out the Men's Room Happy Hour. More Men's Room Monday through Friday, exclusively on the Odyssey app. If you haven't downloaded the app, do so. Hundreds of new channels on there. Search for the Men's Room Happy Hour. That channel only comes on at 6 o'clock when we go live to the Odyssey app. As As we've told you before, same rules do not apply as they do on these airwaves.
Correct.
As far as the FCC. So it is very much an adult segment of our show, so to speak. So do yourself a favor. Do not listen to this with your kids in the car or anything like that. Today, the exciting return of the effing news. Ted, I know for a fact that you'll appreciate a story in there about Drake that I read recently, which includes the F word quite a bit.
All right.
And involves hot sauce, which I know you like as well.
I do.
And another story involving a Seahawks quarterback, Geno Smith.
Oh, yeah.
He got a few in.
He got some really good burns in. I mean, the Geno came out. I don't think the Smith would have done the same thing in a
You're right. That's the Geno part. That's not the Smith part.
That's the Geno. That's the Geno in him coming out, man. But he had a lot to say. So the return of the effing news coming up, along with a little Would You Rather from our own Mike Hawk. If you check out the Men's Room Happy Hour. And today we're going to talk about names. What is in a name? Steve, I think you put it best. The name your parents give you, that is not even the name that they will call you for the rest of your life. Maybe if you are in trouble, you might get your full name.
I'm pretty sure
for the most part,
your full name. You know, before my first kid's born, you go through the process trying to come up with names. You eliminate this, and you come up with the middle name. You go through all this crap, and you're excited about it, and you realize, you don't think about it. Then this kid is born, all right, and you realize the only people that are going to use this full name or even the proper first name are either teachers, because that's just what they do, right? Law enforcement, the legal system, and when you're angry. So basically, the only time you hear your God-given name, as it were, typically you're in trouble. Right? I mean, that's it. Because as soon as my daughter's born, that's the oldest. Somehow, I think, was it Ladybug? I don't know. She's still Bug. And it does not occur to me to call her by her name because that's just not how I refer to her. Her brother has a nickname. It's not a negative one. That he calls. He never says her name. We never do. Right. I mean, and I realize with all the kids, you never use their name. Even their friends don't call them by their names because the friends have nicknames for each other. And then I realized my name, I never hear my name, you know. I'm now Dad. That's what I hear more than anything else. My name was never Dad. And then 11 years ago, it became Dad, and it stuck.
Well, my mom, when she became a grandparent, she decided she did not want to be a grandmother or a grandma. She wanted to be a Mimi.
But she was mom before that, right?
She was mom before that. But since that point in time that I had children, 22 years ago, she has been Mimi to me. So if she calls me, I'm like, what up, Mimi? And I don't even call her mom anymore. I call her what my kids, call her to this day. And so, and it's kind of weird. I just think from a name perspective. And
that is how it goes, though.
But like you name a kid and you spend all this time worrying about it. It's like no one is going to use this name unless it's in an official capacity. And my kid, I mean, like I said, we have not used my kid's name, not to their face. If I'm talking to their teachers, I say that. Otherwise, I never use their name.
Dawned on me last night when I walked into a Thai restaurant that I go to with frequency, but I haven't been there in a while. So I walk in, and the woman who owns the place, she looks at me and she goes,
a little yak in you?
Miley, yes. Miley, where you been? And so she calls me Miley.
Right.
All right.
Well, you didn't introduce yourself that way.
I've had friends that growing up in life that have called me Miley. So the security guard, one of the security guards downstairs, used to always go, "Hey, Miley, what's up?" And it was just one of those things, like to the point where when Miley Cyrus,
that's the guy from Wakanda, by the way.
Yeah. When Miley,
that dude.
When Miley Cyrus,
we're supposed to go get beers.
When she became famous, I thought, like, how's Miley a girl's name? Which it is more of a girl's name. But
absolutely.
It never really dawned on me. You know what I mean?
The only Stevies I know are either Stevie Wonder or Stevie Nicks. But when I was little, grandparents call you Stevie and all that kind of thing. But
yeah, so Miley, so I heard it last night. I was like, hey, there's somebody else who calls me Miley. There's a guy, Slow Joe, who works mornings at the Wolf.
Yeah.
He calls me Milo. My uncle calls me Milo. I have friends that call me Monty. I have friends that call me Kilo. And they just joke about it because they thought it was funny when we were kids that I was really Kilometers.
Right.
So I had a couple people that just called me Kilometers. My science teacher called me Kilometers.
But you realize the people that call you by all these various different names, you know who they are.
Yeah.
And
once you hear
expect,
it.
Right. Like Castle has never said my name. It's not even Thrill. It's Trill.
Which is not
because
your name.
Right. But
that's a name you got from work.
And he just says, hey, Trill. And again, not even Thrill, just Trill. And he has said this for 16 years. But if anyone else said it, I would correct him. But that's just what Castle said.
But that's a name you only got 19 years ago.
I go back and forth.
You call me Thrill most of the time. Most of the time, Thrill. It's Trill. Mike, I always call Mr. Hawk.
Tell people how you got Thrill.
Thrill, because I'm like, how'd you get it? And it was a very nice guy. So a guy named Ken Rosenthal. If you're a huge baseball fan, you might know who he is because he's kind of the de facto baseball expert for Fox, right? And so World Series, he's the guy that's going to cover it. Well, his original gig, he was a sports writer for the Baltimore Sun, and he did a 2-hour show on the weekend. So my second day in radio, I was running the board for his show. And he's a real nice guy. And he had a producer in there, okay? So at the end, think of Scott Hansen. That's his general personality. Upbeat, positive. There's nothing about him you don't like, right? He's a really solid guy. So he doesn't really know me. He just knows I'm training to run the board. So again, this is my second day in radio. So at the end of his show, he thanks his producer, Steve Stoffberg. He thanks the listeners, and he wants to thank me. And as he's searching his brain, his producer writes my name down. Just says Steve Hill. So he goes, I want to thank all my producers, Steve Stoffberg, all of you for listening. And he just decides to say, Steve the Thrill Hill. Okay, he just says it. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, whatever. Typical sports guy, bro stuff. I walk into work the next day. Now, Ken Rosenthal was not there, but all of my coworkers immediately started calling me Thrill. That's not the name I would have picked if I were going to pick a nickname, but I mean, I had nothing to do with it, and I realized they weren't saying it facetiously. Like,
what else could have been there?
That
Steve Chill Hill?
Probably wouldn't have rhymed, man.
Right. Steve
the Black Mamba.
Steve Pill Hill.
Right.
I can't think of anything else.
Mean Steve Peen.
That would work better than that. You know what I mean? That seems.
Well, I mean, now that it's here, like, that's just the name,
right?
You know,
I had an interesting job experience where I was working at a 70s station in Baltimore. It was a classic rock radio station, and my boss at the time, Bill Pasha, he had this thing where he wanted the name of the personalities on the air to reflect the type of radio station it was. So since it was exclusively 70s, one of the most popular TV shows in the 70s was The $6 Million Man. The guy who played, who was Lee Majors, he played a character called Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. We Can Rebuild Him, $6 Million Man. He had artificial parts, all this stuff. He could run, 100 miles an hour.
60 miles an hour.
60 miles an hour. Whatever he could do was ridiculous. It was one of these shows, but it was one of the most popular shows of the 70s.
In fact, I remember the episode. It was a two-parter. He fought, and I wish I was making this up. So he was the $6 million man. Mm-hmm. That's how much it cost to rebuild him, right? And then there was an episode where, now, because he had like the robotic arms and legs, he could beat the living hell out of most people.
Right.
So he gets in a fight with this dude, but the dude kicks his ass. And you realize at the end of this cliffhanger episode, the secret government organization that put together the $6 million man, they didn't tell him about this other guy who was the $7 million.
Oh, one more, isn't it?
1 million more. He got an ass whipping for that.
5-minute ad.
So I'm in this meeting, and I'm about ready to get hired. I'm excited to get this job. And Pasha looks at me and he goes, by the way, I've decided to change your name. And I was like, I'm going to get a job. All right. Well, how bad could it be? And he's like, I want you to be Steve Austin. Now, this is also before Stone Cold Steve Austin had even taken off. All right. We knew a little bit about him, but he was not nearly what you know Steve Austin to be at this point in time. 316, the whole deal. He was just
slinging Tide Cold.
I mean, within a couple of years.
Texas Rattlesnake.
Yeah, E.T. Here comes Steve Austin, like on the scene. But the weirdest thing about it was, Bill sends out this email to the staff the next day. Like, we have a new staff member. His name is Steve Austin. He'll be doing the 7 to midnight or whatever the deal was. Maybe it was afternoons. I can't remember. Anyway, so I walk into work and I was like, hey, Steve, nice to meet you. And I'm like, half the time I didn't even turn around.
Right, because again,
I've never been called this in my life. Now I've got this name, and that's the name, unless you knew me from working there previously or you knew me from another gig in radio. Most of those new people who I met all called me Steve. Aquila called me Steve. Everybody in the building called me Steve.
How glorious was it?
You know what I'm saying? Like, you name it. I mean, Warren Sapp called me Steve. I mean, and I was always trying to tell him, like, I'm not going to turn around. My name is Miles. Like, this is not.
But that's not how
ever going to register.
The first time.
But so for like 4 years.
I heard you for years on the radio as Steve Austin, okay? So we were not working together. It's a different station. I knew who Steve Austin was because you're on the classic rock station. Yeah. When I met you and you were like, yeah, man, I went by Steve Austin. I'm like, that was you? Mm-hmm. Like, it blew my mind. I'm like, yeah, I used to listen to your ass, man.
Yeah, but it was tough to even just turn around when people, like, they come up at appearances, like, Steve, like, do I have a chance to win tickets? And I'm like, oh, you're talking to me. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's
yes,
pretty weird.
Yeah, just put your name in the box there, man, and I'll do a drawing here in a little bit. So that was a bizarre one in my life. You know what I mean? Somebody saying
you didn't pick it.
But some people would just call me Austin. You know what I mean? Which is another weird one because, like, people just pick how they're going to say your name, right?
Sure.
So, like, I get that too. And it was so weird because I'm 27 years old. I mean, a derivative of my name, yes, but not a completely different name. You know what I'm saying? That was just one.
It'd be like people just calling me Gary. Like, yeah. There's no correlation.
I had a guy in high school who called me D-Nose all the time.
Sure.
He said my nose looked like a D.
It does.
Yeah, and if I saw him today, that's what he would call me. There's no doubt about it in my mind. He called me that my entire time that I knew him growing up. But if you just sit down and you write down all the different things that you've been called. Ted, you know anything about it? You're the head chef. All right, we call you the head chef. Where the hell is people call and email in and say, "Could Coach Ted,
Coach Ted,
give me some advice on?" Like, there's all these different things.
But the thing is, you answer to. There are things that people call you that you do not answer to because they're insulting. It's not that, but when people say whatever the nickname is, not only do you respond to it, you can be blindfolded. They can write the name down. Right? You don't even hear the voice. If it says Teddy, I'm saying it's probably your buddy Bernie. Right? It's probably from the East Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Period. Because you will respond to that from them. It's just weird. Smitty.
Smitty could be almost anybody that's ever coached me in any sport. Sure. But like I was saying earlier in the office, like Squirrel is just those guys I lived with at Hopkins. So
in one little small period of time in your life.
Correct. But I hadn't seen those guys in years, and then I saw them all in June. But you're right. If somebody said Squirrel or like I know exactly, it's either, DB, Sut.
And before that, you were tiny.
Yeah, in high school, right. Freshman football, they started calling me Tiny because I was huge.
But if you go back for like a high school reunion, what percentage of people would either call you Smitty or Tiny, just based on how they knew you?
Probably like the high school guys I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
And then, frankly, most of the black guys.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, damn, Tiny, where you been?
Right.
What happened?
You can say it's 10.
Sorry, I don't weigh 350 anymore.
What happened?
Yeah.
Can't call you Tiny anymore.
But you're right. There's specific guys that I don't. But like most of my buddies that I like stay in touch with, they all call me Ted. A lot of them will call me Teddy. And then you're right. I don't think Bernie's ever called me Ted.
No, my brother,
or if Bernie does, it's because we're having a real serious conversation.
That's what I mean. You hear your name when something serious is going on.
Does your brother call you your name? My brother does not. He calls me brother. He'll call me up. Hey, brother, I love you, man. What's going on? Like, hey, brother, you want to go play golf? He calls me brother. I have a neighbor. You know what he calls me? He calls me neighbor. He'll bang on the wall and go, neighbor, want a shot? And I'm like,
do you think
I'm on my way?
Do you think he can say what your name is?
Oh, he knows my name.
He does
come
know.
up there like, hey, neighbor, what's happening, man? You want to go get a beer, neighbor? Like, it's always neighbor. So, like, that's just what he calls me.
Sure.
So, but I know that he's my neighbor, and it's just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I went through a phase where my brother just got, because his kids were smaller, so he just, by mistake, he would just call me Uncle Ted.
And that'll stick.
Yeah, I'm not your Uncle Chris.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. My brother calls me brother. I call him Uncle Nick.
All right,
because of my kids. Because that's what they call him. So it's like
same thing with my brother. He's Adrian, but now it's Uncle Adrian if I ever bring him up, because that's what my kids call him.
Yeah. And that continues. That evolution never stops. As we said, when you're a grandparent, you'll have a different name. You know what I mean? One that you haven't had until grandkids arrived. You know,
my dad went from, I want to say his name's Robert. His family called him Cal. That was his middle name. But if you went to Texas, everyone called him Cal. Then he was Robert. Then it was Dad. Now he's Pop Pop.
Yeah.
To the point that I don't call him Dad
as well.
Oh, I think he has.
I mean, well, from friends, you know.
From friends, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Well, it's like that story with my dad, right? We're on Bourbon Street. We're going to that LSU game. It's during the day. We get food, and then the bars are kind of opening up, right? Now, my dad doesn't even drink alcohol, right? He drinks any beers.
Right.
But we had gotten a couple, we went to the place that started the hurricane.
I can't think of the name, but I know exactly where.
Right, so we have two of those. So now the guys that are drinking, we're feeling good. And we go into this one bar, and it's like you buy one beer, you get 3 extras. So my dad's just a weird, crazy person. So the guy on stage is like trying to get people to sing, and he's like, look at this crazy old effer. Right? And called him, the actual word. So to this day, like me and Will and my brother, like he's just old effer.
Is that where it came from?
That's where it came. The guy
I know
was
you
just
referred to him
look
as
at
old
this
effer.
crazy old effer. Like, get up here on stage. He's up there dancing with like the tub girls that hand out all the beers.
Yeah, good for him.
Right, so that guy just called him an old effer, and we have stuck with it to the point of like my Aunt Barbara's a little more reserved than the rest of us, and like I have said it before, and she gives me a look. I'm like, yeah, sorry, Aunt
You're
Barbara.
not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just like, where the hell is old effer?
Don't you have one friend that you have on your phone that's just the end?
My N-bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's and my kid, so he had called, this was like 2 years ago. My phone's sitting on the table. My kid's like, I said, hey, it's Tony. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I still have a black Ted in my phone because when we tailgated, I was white Ted. He was black Ted.
Makes it easy.
God, I miss black Ted. Shout out to BT.
Our question, besides your bird name, how many other names do you answer to? 206-421-ROCK.
Realtors abide by a code of ethics. This is Article 9 in action. Beth, a first-time homebuyer, knew nothing about the home buying process. except that she wanted to buy a home. But her realtor had the expertise to make sure Beth understood every document, even giving her copies to review with her lawyer so Beth could close on her first home with confidence. Complicated things explained in simple terms. The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
$20 million, $19 million, $6 million. These are all awards recovered for clients of Phillips Law Firm. To win big, you have to fight big. And Phillips Law has been fighting the too big to fail insurance industry for decades. Not every case will have a multi-million-dollar outcome, but Phillips Law will fight just as hard to recover the outcome you deserve. If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or on the job, call or click today at 1-800-JUSTICE or visit justiceforyou.com.
This podcast is brought to you by the Washington State Department of Health. As we continue to listen, learn, and grow, we are amplifying Black voices and perspectives in an effort to start a new COVID-19 vaccine conversation. We're sharing stories intended to help us navigate this unprecedented time together and to co-create solutions in support of the Black community. Hear these stories at weconsiderwa.org.
Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
99.9 KISW. The shenanigans continue. This is the Men's Room with Miles and Thrill.
Our question, besides your birth name, how many other names do you answer to? 206-421-ROCK.
Hello, Sophia. Welcome to the Men's Room.
Hold on one second. I'm going to do this.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Hola.
Sorry, Sophia. You a little busy there?
A little bit. No, so I've actually got several. So it really depends on who's talking to me. Like, so I was born, my legal name is Tanya-Jane, middle name Sophia.
Okay.
But everybody calls me Sophia. That's how everybody's known me most of my life. My colleagues, my hospital ID, everything has always said that.
But you introduce yourself as Sophia, right? If that's your middle name, like if people call you by your middle name.
That's what I go by.
Okay, all right.
If I use my first name, people are like, who the hell is that? You know?
Okay. Does anyone call you Sophie?
My son, he does. He calls me that, or he calls me Mom.
Yeah.
Well, he's my stepson. I only got him last year when I married my husband.
Okay. Is he trying to make the transition from Sophie to Mom, or what?
No, he's always just called me Mom. But he'll sometimes call me that just to get on my nerves because he knows it drives me crazy.
Okay.
Especially since he's like, he's trying to get me because I'm due in 2 weeks with our first child, our daughter Zoe, and so he's like, "Oh, I want to just make life as miserable as possible for you," and I'm like, "Thanks, that's such a wonderful gift."
Hey, at least he admits it. Clearly, my kids are out to do the same. They just deny it. So let me ask you this. So you already picked your daughter's name. What are the odds, do you think, honestly, based on what we know of life, that everyone's going to call her Zoe? It's going to be Z. It's going to be Zoe.
I have no idea. I mean, I might call her Zoe, to be honest with you.
You won't.
Our son is the one.
You won't. You're going to have her, and then they're going to name her like, Jellyface or some stupid thing when they're a baby, and then it's going to stick.
Well, she's going to have my middle name, too, so it's going to be, so if I start calling her that, because our son is the one who actually picked out her name. And so, because, like, my husband and I were like, what are we going to name her? And then our son was like, oh, let's name her this. And we're like, okay, that actually is beautiful.
That doesn't suck. We're surprised.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean, and he's 14, so, I mean, that's not a bad name for a 14-year-old child to come up with.
No, not at all.
Yeah, my daughter named her cat Rainbow, and it's a black cat. I think you got lucky.
Rainbow Janet.
Rainbow Janet, just to really reinforce how ridiculous a name could be.
Where did she come up with Janet?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, my husband calls me something even more insane because I eat raspberries all the time, and I've always eaten them. They're like my favorite food. And he's noticed it more since he got home from Iraq. He calls me framboise, which is the French word for raspberry. And I'm like, can you not call? And plus, I watch Archer all the time. And he's like, oh, look, because I always reference her in the dang show. I'm like, can you not call me that? And he goes, but why? It's funny. And I'm like, can you just call me something other than Frambois? Like, what in the heck is that?
What about when you walk around the house? Are you a honey, a baby, what?
We typically try to call each other sweetheart, but just because he's soon to be retired Army, I like to mess with him and call him Guns, because he likes to send me pictures of him with guns.
You call him Guns?
Oh, yeah, and he's ripped anyway. Like, he's just...
That's awesome. It works for him.
Let me put it this way, guys. If I wanted to wash my clothes on them abs, I could, okay?
Okay.
Wow. All right, good for you. Nice work.
Yeah, we don't have that for you here.
I can't. You're not going to do that with me.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. Like, I just didn't expect, with him and everything like that. But, I mean, I just I'll call him Guns from time to time. But for the most part, we hear sweetheart, and and then our son will try to mess with us, and he'll say that too, and be like, well, we're looking at each other, and it's like, you know what, damn it, kid, you're driving us nuts, right?
Yeah, he's just trying to be funny. That's what kids do.
Sweetheart's a tough one, and I feel like sweetheart, if there is a child I don't know that is under duress, a lot of you do that. Otherwise, the only people I call sweetheart is like a dude who you're messing with.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm watching the football. You're a Steelers fan, I'm a Ravens fan. They're playing each other like, oh, sorry, sweetheart, we got to.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Like, hey, man. Okay, so both my father and my uncle, they live in Florida. Mm-hmm. For the majority of their life, they've lived in the southern part of the United States of America, all right? So for whatever culture, I mean, people would get offended in certain areas if you called them baby, if you called them honey, if you called them sweetie. No woman, I've never been to a restaurant where the waitress didn't come up and go, and sweetie, what do you want?
Oh,
or honey, what do you want?
Yep.
And
in the South,
and they do it back to the waitresses. You know what I'm saying? Or whoever's. It's just the checkout woman at the grocery store. Hi, sweetie, how was your day? Mm-hmm. And where a lot of people would be offended by that, it doesn't. It's
cultural. Like in Texas, everyone is sweetheart. The women call the guys that, the guys call the women, and it's the same as saying dude.
I think it's where you. It's an age thing, too, because, Mike, you're a sweetheart. I've heard you use sweetheart on people before, but I think just because, his dad used it.
Well, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go up that way.
But Mike's not that old. So when he says it sometimes, I'm like, is this way just going to say something to him?
Mike is not physically old, but we're all convinced. At the day of your birth, you were already a 70-year-old man.
I mean, I know he's just saying it because it's like a term of endearment.
Born with bad knees and back.
Why are you calling her sweetheart, Mike? You know what I mean? Like, why are you calling her sweetie?
I'm more of a dear. I don't use sweetheart too much. Not
anymore.
I try to curb that one back. But
do you actually say dear? I never. I'm just thinking like with my wife, it's babe, right? We're both just babe. Every once in a while, she'll call me love, and when she's a little mad but not out of her mind, it's just ass.
It's kind of like the same thing you've said that you don't like being called sir. Yet the way that I
makes me feel old,
right?
Sir.
Yet the way that I said it was a different. It was a term of endearment, and it felt like a term of endearment. Thank you, sir. And it's the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, dear.
Yes, ma'am. Too. Because
I say yes. I still say yes, sir. And
yes,
and like service industry kind of stuff.
Right, service industry. My dad was former military, so a lot of times you just say yes, sir, no, ma'am, whatever it is. But you're saying it out of respect, not so much because I feel you're old. Because half the time I've said to people younger than me. Mm-hmm. But if they're in a position of power, like taking your application for something. Also, sir, you live at this address, and go, yes, sir. That is correct.
Yeah. If I need a bum of cigarette, everybody's going to be sir.
Oh.
Like if I'm out of cigarette.
You are treated with the utmost respect. Excuse me, your great highness.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have a cigarette
and if you're out front of this building, it's always the same. I just got out of prison.
That's not
because the prison's next door.
We had 3 in one day,
50% of the time. 50% of the time. If someone bums a cigarette, they will tell you they just got out of prison.
I always people ask, will bum a cigarette or a lighter, and I'm like, why are you asking me? I just walked by you. I'm not smoking a cig.
I don't have a lighter. Know if you have it on you,
exactly.
Man.
But you talk about names and relationships. Yeah, I think I've used a little pet name here or there, but honey for some reason I only use when I'm annoyed.
Right. There's go-to. Right. For sure, there are go-tos when you're angry. It's the equivalent of using your kid's first and middle name.
Yeah, and I don't know why it started. It was, I don't know. But yeah, if I honey, we have to go.
Uh-huh. Because you're trying to appeal to...
Right, but I would never be like, honey, get over here.
Because it's the same as a guy calling me sir when he wants to bum a cigarette.
Yeah.
You're just kind of I'm trying to be respectful, but God damn it, you're starting to piss me off. You're right. Instead of saying that, you just say honey.
And you're right. I feel like sweetheart is kind of a diss.
It depends
mean
on
that
who
it
says
is.
it and how they say it.
I guess if I use it, I'm usually making fun of somebody oh, he's a real
Yeah,
sweetheart.
me too. So if you say it to me outside of Texas, if you say it, I assume that you're a douchebag like I am, right?
Yeah.
If you were in Waffle House, she's not going to call you anything else.
Right, that's true.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, sweetheart, what do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want pancakes? You know what I mean? Like, it's always like, it's not negative. It's, you know, I guess situational.
Situational for
but
sure.
There's some people who get really offended by that stuff. Like, I'm not your sweetie.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're like, I should stop doing that. Besides your birth name, how many other names do you answer to? 206-421-ROCK.
I like this guy. It says, my wife hates being called babe because she says it reminds her of the pig from the movie. If that's your correlation, I can see that perhaps you don't want to be called babe. Just understand, I don't look at it like this. Do you think your husband looks at you and thinks, my wife reminds me of a pig, and that's why I'm with him? Just ask yourself that. He probably does.
No, it's Babe Ruth, baby.
Yeah, there you go. You remind me of a man, not a pig.
Exactly.
You remind me of a man.
A big man.
A big athletic man. Never a pig. Hello, Alfred. Welcome to the men's room.
How you doing?
Hola.
Hola. My given name is Alfred John Luberts III.
Ooh, of course.
So I end up with AJ. And everything from AJ, Alfred Hitchcock, AJ Foyt, Apple Jacks, Apple Juice, you know. Lubes was one in high school. This one guy used to say, AJ Lubes has no pubes all the time. My daughter was on the softball team, and her name's Ashley Janine, so we could call her AJ. And they literally called her Lubes because there was three other Ashleys on the same team at Meadowdale.
Let me ask you this. You went to the trouble to name your daughter. What do you call her? If you're just wandering around the house, like if you're yelling for her, do you actually say her name, or do you have like some name that is stuck since early childhood?
I call her Ash a lot, and I call her, when I want to mess around, I call her Ashleaners.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because it's stupid and kid-like.
What grade is
AJ?
What grade is your daughter in?
She's 26.
Oh, okay. All right. So she's not going to Meadow.
Actually, she just turned 27 on Christmas. She's born on Christmas Day.
Okay. All right.
So what do her friends call her?
Ashley Janine Noel are her three names besides Luberts.
Do her friends call her Ashley, AJ, or do they have an entirely different name?
They called her Ashley or AJ on the team as well, besides Lubes, because there was a lot of Ashleys, popular name.
Right.
But she named her daughter Amadia Jade. So there's technically an AJ number 5 out there. I just had a granddaughter.
What was the first name?
Huh?
Alfred.
Her name, she gave her, my first name's Alfred, but she gave her my first initial, and then she gave her my mom's name, her grandmother, Maria. So Amadia is her.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Amadia Jade. And she gave her a second middle name because she has a second middle name. So she's kind of keeping with the whole traditional thing.
Okay.
My youngest daughter is Sierra Jordan, so we call her CJ all the time.
Oh, but would that be an S? Wouldn't Sierra be
Sierra as in C?
No, she's a C. She's
right?
Sierra with a C.
Sierra.
Yeah, Miles.
By the way, Mike Hawk, you are the backbone of this entire show. Your laughter in the background, which is so just out there, bursting, whatever, I laugh just whenever you laugh. I didn't even have to get the joke.
Well, here's a little known fact about Mike.
He gets that all the time.
Mike is actually a hyena.
I am.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I needed that.
That's
Email him some pictures of animals that have been shaved.
That's cool that Jesus. That's cool that his daughter went to Meadowdale.
Yeah.
That's where my kid went to school. Graduation, I swear to God, they have 9,000 kids graduate. And they call each one of their names out. I mean, you're like, how many kids go to the school? I need to get out of here. This is unbelievable.
They do it alphabetically, right?
Oh, my God.
So you're right in the middle.
I swear to God, it seems like 9 million kids graduate from that high school every year.
Well,
good. I'm standing outside the stadium just going like, this is never going to end. They're only on the J's.
Dude, in my high school, it was like this. Mike, Steve, come up here. All right, then. That's our graduating class.
Good for you guys.
David over there, I think next year you're going to have to drop out. You've reached the age limit.
Mm-hmm. Besides your birth name, how many other names do you answer to? 206-421-ROCK.
Hello, Dara. Or Dara.
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 Yes. Woo.
Woo. Dara with a potty mouth.
Dara with the dirty mouth.
Yeah.
Once again, bedroom color.
Woo.
7 words you can't say on the radio.
I dare you not to do that again.
Yeah. Sucker. Mother.
and please keep those words in mind when calling. Now, back to the program.
All right, Dara, with the potty mouth.
Can't say that word there, Dara.
My given name is Dara Dean, but my family calls me Doo-Doo, Downtown Doo-Doo Brown, Doodle Lump, Lumpy Gus, Sissy, because I have a little sister. I'm a bartender, so I hear Dartender a lot.
Oh, that's not bad. Dartender.
Yeah.
Yeah, is Bear a Dartender in the house, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it. But,
Where do you tend bar?
I'm on the Key Peninsula.
Okay. Do you mind if people call you sweetie or babe or darling or
I
hey?
love it.
Okay,
I
all
love
right.
it because I forget everybody's name all the time. So everybody's hey babe or hey sweetie or hun because I don't have the time to remember.
We forget names all the time, too. And we realize you make up for it by a very complimentary nickname like Atomic Playboy.
Yeah, sex
I ain't
machine.
seen you in a
What
minute.
up, sex
Tell them
machine?
what they drink. Hey, rum and coke.
You know, yeah.
That's not bad. Bush Light.
A lot of bartenders actually do that.
My name would be Jack. In most places I visit,
Jack.
it used to be Jose.
Bob.
Now it's Jack, yeah.
You know, Bowling Bob. There were a lot of Bobs out here.
All right. Okay.
A lot of Bobs, yeah.
I guess that'd be Husongs or Dos Equis at this point.
At what point did you change? Because you're a J. Are you the second or third? Or
I'm the third, yeah.
You're the third. So did they determine
Who's
that's your Miles, or did you? Because my brother, he's Tracy Adrian.
Yes,
Hill.
they determined that.
And he hated the name Tracy, which always bugged my parents because they were like, when we named you that, it was unisex. He's like, times change. Adrian is not the most significant upgrade, but so he goes by Adrian all the time. Everyone calls him Adrian. When he got to the NFL, they would start putting his name up there. It said Tracy Adrian Hill, and he kind of made the request like, nobody sorry, let me rephrase it. Nobody calls me Tracy. I go by Adrian, and I've noticed in the last couple of years, they stopped calling him Tracy Adrian Hill or Tracy Hill. They now say Adrian Hill, and that's my request.
Yeah.
Except my grandmother. She was like, I'm going to call you Tracy because that's what your mama named you. And you just didn't mess with her.
Right.
So, but that was the last
He doesn't care.
person.
He doesn't care.
That's why I go by Ted, because as a kid, my mom didn't want me to be, because I was a junior, a little Eddie or little Ed.
Or, just Junior.
Yeah. So Ted used to be a common nickname for Edward.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Not so much anymore. I won't reference it. But, right. So people are like, did you just pick that name? Like, no, it's a nickname.
Yeah. What name would you have picked if you could pick?
Oh, I don't know.
Duke.
Yeah,
Butch.
something tough. But
Max.
Ted works.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also funny, too. It's like once in a while, you'll just be in a bar and people are talking. Especially, and I always laugh when people are like, like a girl named Katie. Like, I have the plainest name. My name's Katie. I'm like, my name's Ted Smith.
Right. I mean,
you are barking up the wrong tree looking for sympathy.
Besides your birth name, how many other names do you answer to? 206-421-ROCK.
Hello, Hendrick. Welcome to the men's room.
Hola, Bichola.
Hola.
How you guys doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks, brother.
First time caller. Nice to hear you guys for the first time.
Oh, welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
If your name's Hendrick, I can tell you right now, I would call you Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you like it or not, that's exactly where I'd go.
I mean, that's better than some of them I heard.
Okay.
Yeah. So what do people call you?
But so my dad, first off, calls me boy, and that's that's a story from my uncle. He came over from Iowa, and he started calling me boy just because he didn't know my name, and it pissed off my grandmother, and so my dad continued to call me that in order to piss off my grandmother.
Okay. There's some joy in antagonizing your parents. I understand that.
Right, at any age.
Yeah.
Yep, and now it's just kind of stuck.
Okay.
Because he still calls me that to this day.
If my son hears boy, he knows he's in trouble. And I'm like past the point of like that means I've already said his first and middle name. Somehow this is continued, and then it just becomes boy. And I get that from my father, who, if I heard the word boy when he was speaking to me, bad things were going to follow.
Oh, yeah.
Or I
call my kid kid. You know what I mean? Like, I don't realize it, but I'm like, kid, what do you want to eat for dinner? It's just.
Yeah, kid's not so bad.
No, it's the. I mean, it's not that I don't. When they were little, my one daughter, she was called Katie Bird.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other daughter, when she was born, my first couldn't say her name Ava. So she would just call her, and she couldn't say sister. So she called her Nister.
Mm-hmm. And to this day,
she is Nister.
It never changes.
No, it does not.
Except for 40 years. My parents, Robert and Carolyn, we had my cousin stay with me for like 3 months over summer. Again, this is over 40 years ago. But he called them Uncle Robert and Aunt Carolyn. And to this day, that's what they call each other, which is kind of weird. Uncle Wobbit, like he is your husband. But whatever, I'm used to hearing it, but people always ask, like, why do they say that? I'm like, right, it's not some bedroom talk, man. It is for my cousin.
That's like my Uncle Phil. Like, I call him Phil, but as a kid, everybody called him Dee, right? Because he was a junior. I don't know where Dee came from, but there's still a large, like, amount of my family that just calls him Dee. And I'm like, once I got to like 13, 14, I was like, well, I'm kind of older. I can call him by his real name.
That's what I mean. Like, why do we go through all the trouble to name our kids? And there's all these family things or whatever. And then, like, nobody's going to call your kid by the name you gave him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my nephew, Christopher. Oh, what is his middle name? Something with a J. We call him CJ. Right. I've never called him Chris or Christopher. That's my brother.
Yep.
Exactly. Like,
and whatever's popular at the time, if there's anything that rhymes or anything that works into a nickname to call you based on your name,
it's guaranteed.
I mean, that's what I remember. Just growing up, just the different names that people would give people based on,
But it's the fact that because my wife, when we're trying to come up with names, she had like a list of 20 different names, and she hands it to me. And as I went through the list, I immediately broke into a rhyme for each one. And she said, "Why are you doing this? Like, why are you being so nasty about it?" I said, "I'm not being nasty. I'm telling you what nasty kids are going to do by the time you hit middle school. Mm-hmm. If we name them blank, this is what people are going to call them. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not me being mean. This is a fact of life. And look, they'll learn to live with it, but just know this is what people are going to say." And she's like, "You're really quick with it." I'm like, maybe it's a guy thing, but I'm like, dude, as soon as you meet someone, if your name rhymes or reminds us of anything, that becomes your nickname.
Exactly. We had a guy who worked here in sales for years. Last name was Freeze. Nobody called him by his first name.
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
Right. And when you even said it like that.
Mr. Freeze.
You ever call him Steve? Did you ever call him Steve?
I only called him Steve.
Really?
I called him Mr. Freeze.
I feel like you two were the only two called him Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze.
I was like, wait a minute, I never heard that
we
one.
give a lot of nicknames. Besides your birth name, how many other names do you answer to? 206-421-ROB.
Realtors abide by a code of ethics. This is Article 9 in action. Beth, a first-time homebuyer, knew nothing about the home buying process, except that she wanted to buy a home. But her realtor had the expertise to make sure Beth understood every document, even giving her copies to review with her lawyer so Beth could close on her first home with confidence. Complicated things explained in simple terms. The difference between an agent and a realtor is real. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. That's who we are.
$20 million, $19 million, $6 million. These are all awards recovered for clients of Phillips Law Firm. To win big, you have to fight big. And Phillips Law has been fighting the too-big-to-fail insurance industry for decades. Not every case will have a multi-million-dollar outcome, but Phillips Law will fight just as hard to recover the outcome you deserve. If you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or on the job, call or click today at 1-800-JUSTICE or visit justiceforyou.com.
This podcast is brought to you by the Washington State Department of Health. As we continue to listen, learn, and grow, we are amplifying Black voices and perspectives in an effort to start a new COVID-19 vaccine conversation. We're sharing stories intended to help us navigate this unprecedented time together and to co-create solutions in support of the Black community. Hear these stories at weconsiderwa.org.